So we just finished creating the logo, and like I said in that session, it is a crucial part to doing all of this. So we're gonna build on that, and we're gonna create our hero image for our website. So when people come to our site, we immediately want them to know what they're getting into. And so we're creating a bakery site. So at this point, we're gonna create a bakery image background for our homepage. So if I'm looking here, the perfect fresh bread is purple, and this is all purple. It's a nice visual image, simple, it's clean. We're gonna try to create something like that for our site that goes with our design. Once again, we're making this our own. So when I'm gonna do a hero image, oftentimes I might start with iStockPhoto.com. I love iStock, they've got great photos, but if I'm on a budget and I need to, sometimes I might even be just mocking something up or playing with some concepts, some ideas, and so I'll go to Unsplash.com. They have usable stock photos that are royalty free. So with a bakery, I might type in baked goods and see what I get. I want to get something that's eye-popping, but I also have to remember the colors in my logo. So since I have both kind of dark and light colors, I need a pretty neutral palette. So I love this design right here. It's got some warm tones in it. The focus is on this cinnamon roll over here. I love that there's a coffee there in the background, but I know that I'm gonna have some words right here to the left-hand side. So I like that this is a great photo. So I download it. It says download free. I just click OK. Now, if you want to give the person credit, which I like to give people credit where credit is due, you can copy this information and put it in the footer of your site, or put it somewhere that says, hey, the photos that we used in these locations are for this person. But for this purposes, we're just gonna move on past that. It's not required, but it's a nice thing to do. So my photos over here is in my downloads. Now, since we're going to resize it, I just take it from here and I drag it to Photoshop, and then it opens up here in Photoshop for me. Immediately, the first thing I want to do is make sure it's the right size. These things oftentimes are massive. It looks small here, but this is actually at 33% resolution. I see that right here. And so when I go to image size, over here, I go to image and then image size in Photoshop, I can see that the width is 5,472. Well, screen resolution size for these websites, I always do 1920 by 1080. So the height, in order to keep this aspect ratio, the height is set to 1920 by 1280, which is very standard, but we only want it to be 1080, so we're gonna need to remove 200 pixels off of this picture. So I click OK. Notice that it made it smaller. It's still at 33%. I'm gonna go ahead and increase it to a little larger. This is 100%. And while it looks smaller in here, it's because of a retina display. It's actually still gonna be on the screen. It'll be the right size for it. The cinnamon roll is making me hungry. It's almost lunchtime here. This background over here on this Photoshop, it's got this little lock on it. So it makes it to where whenever I do crop and stuff that it doesn't always, once you crop it, it doesn't allow you to, it crops part of the photo out. I need the photo to stay there, but I want to change the canvas size. So I just double click on that and it turns this into a layer. So click OK on that. And then I go to image and then to canvas size. And then this, I like to work in pixels, so I go to pixels here. And I tell it that I need my height to be 1080. Now, down here I've got these anchors, and I really don't want any of the cinnamon roll to be cut off, so I'm gonna anchor it to be the bottom. So it's actually gonna cut off 200 pixels off of the top of the picture. If I chose, one of these other anchor points, then it would hold that, it would lock that in place. But I do this, I click OK. It's gonna tell me the new canvas size is smaller. I just click proceed. See there, it's done. Now, if I wanted to change this up a little bit, where I'm like, okay, I want the cinnamon roll to be a little bit more to the right, or I want to move it around, I can click here and just drag the picture around, or I can do Command T and I can stretch it and make it a size. But you'll notice that by moving this around, I can kind of change where I want the cinnamon roll to be. And I can maybe make that a little bigger, if I want it to be here. And another thing that I'm also considering whenever I create a hero image is on this particular design, this layout, I have my logo at the top and it's got what's called a naked overlay. So there's no, bar behind it. So I know that my menu, the links for my menu are going to be on my right-hand side. They're going to be overlaying this picture as well. And I want them to show up. So if the top of this was white and my font was white, then you wouldn't be able to see those links. So anytime I'm considering an art piece or a picture to put behind words, I want to make sure that whatever colors I'm choosing, that my fonts are going to show up. This is actually a near perfect picture because it has a little bit lighter option over here on the left-hand side for the logo to lay over nicely. You should still be able to see the colors. It might not pop quite as much as I want, but I could fix that if I wanted to add some gradient, but I'm gonna leave it alone for now. And on the right-hand side, it's a little bit darker, and so my fonts, if they're white, will show up, or if they're golden, they should show up as well. If I wanted to give myself a little bit of more shadowing there, I could just change this color here to like this nice brownish color, and I might make it a little darker. It still has a little more brown in it than I want. Take that, I choose this gradient tool, click on that. I notice up here that it's gonna go from solid to transparent, which is what I want. And then I will just click on this corner and I just drag it down. Oop, before I do that, I need to add another layer. I go layer, new layer. And then I might just name this. I'm super lazy when it comes to naming layers and stuff because I just want to go. I'm like, let's just go. But then later, whenever you have 75, 100, 200 layers, you're like, where is it? And everything's named layer 1, 2, 0, and things get all out of order. It ends up becoming a real nightmare. So organization is important as well on this. So I click on that. Then I go to this corner and I just kind of do that. And I'm like, okay, that added a little bit more, but the location isn't quite right. So I do Command Z to undo that. It's Command Z on a Mac. I'm not certain what it is on Windows, but on Mac, Command Z undoes it. So I just do this. I got a little bit darker there. I'm gonna do Command T. It's gonna select just that layer. And I can kind of drag it around now and see. And if I hit Shift and hold this down, it's gonna drag that color. So notice how that gradient's going across there. It's just giving me a little more dimension there. And then if I drag this up, it's gonna give me a little more. So once again, that corner is a little darker. And so whatever I put over here on this side, it's gonna really pop. And yet I still have my cinnamon roll, and that feels just a smidge dark to me. So I go over here to my layers panel, and if this layers panel isn't showing, you go to view or I think it's window, and then layers, and make sure that's checked. And then it'll show up over here. When I first started designing in Photoshop, I would create these elaborate designs and I had no clue that the layers panel existed. I was just like drawing stuff and getting it all together. And then I'd save it and I'd send it to the client and then they'd want some changes. And so I knew what I did, so I would just have to recreate it from scratch. And then one day, somehow I stumbled upon this layers panel and I saw how important it is, and it saved me thousands of hours in time over the years. So the layers panel is one of your best friends in Photoshop. So I double click on this layer right here, and I remember the first time that I clicked on this, I was like, whoa, look at all these options. It really is a ton of things that you can do, but one of the things we're gonna work on right now is this opacity. So I wanna make that a little more transparent. So you'll notice how that's changing over there. If this box isn't checked for preview, you won't see that, but right now it's gonna show me how that's getting darker and lighter because I want it to be just a little less dark. And that way I don't have to worry about going back and creating a new gradient. I just play with the one that I've already created. So that's a quick Photoshop tutorial. Something else that you might do when you're creating a hero image is You could stylize this with some fun overlays. There's brush tools, different things. We're not going to get into that now, but you can get creative with this piece as well and make it your own. I click Save As. Something else that's important too is when you're creating these images, be mindful of what the image might look like in mobile as well, in a mobile view. Most of these themes, the cool thing about them is with Avada, it has different views that you can have where it's only showing on the desktop and it's only showing on mobile. So if there's ever a problem with an image, we can make an image for a background that looks good on mobile devices. So I'm going to name this Cinnamon Roll Hero image. And then I'm going to put it, we go back over here. And here's this images, but this images I put for Start a Business Fast. I realize that now I need to rename that, but for now I'm going to put it in this images folder. If you create an image and it is a .psd file, that means that you can edit it later with layers. And if you save it as a JPEG, then you can't edit it again. So when I create an image like this, sometimes I save it so I can go back and modify it. I save it as a PSD. Sometimes I don't because what I did was really simple. But for this, we're going to go ahead and save it as the PSD first. So I have a copy of it. So if I want to go back later and modify my gradient, I can. And then I'll do File, Save As, and I'm going to save it as a JPEG with the same name. Then right here, when it says JPEG options, you want to make sure that this K size over here is kilobytes. If I was to make this really big, it's going to be 1.1 megabytes. So the resolution will be great, but then it's going to load really slow in your site. Now, granted, internet speeds have increased over time, but we still want our site to load super fast and be nimble. And so if we put it down here to low, it might look too low. I usually try to have it around 200 kilobytes at the most. I even think this 147 is great. So kind of a medium resolution will be just fine. So I click OK. It's saved. I'm going to go back to my site. And then I'm going to click Edit Page. So this right now is the back end of the site. You have all these different sections of your main homepage, and it tells you right here, this is the hero content. That's another great thing about these Avada themes is they have already organized everything for you. If you were to do this from scratch, you would have to name each one of these sections for yourself. And so this has a call to action down here, social networks, locations, featured products, already done for you. So I'm going to expand this first one, hero content. Over here to the left-hand side, I see I've got my fresh and tasty bakery every day. This is the purple font that's on there. We'll change that out later. This right here is just a spacer element. Not going to worry about that right now. Click on this little paintbrush to edit this section. I'm going to edit this container. I click on it. I'm going to go to the background, and I'm going to go to image, and I'm going to remove this image, and then I'm going to upload my image. Go to my images folder. Make sure I grab the JPEG. Click it. Notice down here, this is what I was talking about earlier. This size says medium, and this is crucial. Whenever I went to my split hours, I was like, why does my resolution look so bad? I didn't see that was set to medium, and I needed to make sure that it was set to full size. Because what it did was it uploaded a smaller version of the file, and it was only 300 pixels. So whenever it stretched it out to be 1920 for the background size, it looked really bad resolution. So make sure that size is there. You'll notice up here too, you have some information that tells you the size of it right here. Make sure that it says 1920 by 1080 pixels right there. Alt text, I'm going to choose cinnamon roll header. Okay. I'll leave the caption and description. The title's fine. It's not going to show up, but it has the name of the picture name, whatever you name the picture. Okay. I insert that. The background position by default is usually set correctly, so I leave it alone. But there's some stuff that you can choose here and edit that are part of this theme. For now, we're just going to do this right here, which is just leave those default options the way they are. Once you've done that, you click Update. I've had a number of people that I've taught how to use WordPress, and they'll modify a certain section of a page. So they'll go in here, they'll click on this, they'll go to the background, then they click Save right here. And they think, well, I saved my settings, why didn't they save? You just saved the section of that container. You got to make sure that after you hit that save, you got to hit Update. And that's what sends it to the website and makes it live. So we could be working all day on this page, saving stuff, editing, and then when we hit Update, then it's going to upload all of our changes. So now when I go and view my page, it's going to have that background image changed out. And so there we go. So now we have this Golden Gorilla Bakery. We've got our cinnamon roll, it looks good. And we've got this, the perfect fresh bread. And it actually looks pretty good right here the way it is. I just don't like that purple font. It doesn't go with our overall look and feel. So we look at this now and we see we have this great cinnamon roll image. We have our logo set up. The next part of this process is going to be changing out these font colors and even changing out the font style. And that's going to be next in our process.